Having agreed that they preferred to avoid the rain, Priya and her family decided to postpone their trip to the zoo after reading the weather forecast for the weekend. As written, the main problem here is that their trip to the zoo is taking place after reading the weather forecast, when really the reading should take place first, then they agreed that they prefer to avoid the rain, and then third, Priya and her family decide to postpone their trip to the zoo. So A has a strange word order. B, Priya and her family read the weather forecast for the weekend, agreed that they preferred to avoid the rain, decided to postpone their trip to the zoo. This would actually be fine because it gives the order of events in the order that they happened, but the final item in the list of the things that they did doesn't have the conjunction and, or and then, something along those lines. So without that, it becomes a run-on sentence or a comma splice, and we can't have that. C says, after reading the weather forecast for the weekend and agreeing that they preferred to avoid the rain, Priya and her family decided to postpone their trip to the zoo. So that's acceptable. D has, after reading the weather forecast for the weekend and agreeing that they preferred to avoid the rain, it was decided by Priya and her family that they would postpone their trip. So it was decided by Priya and her family. Grammatically correct, but there's really no reason to put it in the passive voice, where we have already seen C isn't. And then E, after reading the weather forecast for the weekend and agreeing that they preferred to avoid the rain, the trip to the zoo was postponed by Priya and her family. Here, it's the trip to the zoo that was reading the weather forecast grammatically, and that just doesn't happen, so we can eliminate E and choose C.